So I made a video the other day about organising and cataloguing your music collection so that you can find stuff later on. As I thought, it's something that I think probably we all struggle with. I know I did, and I'm still trying to get the best system. And I had some really great questions come off that video, which I thought were worth answering in video form, because if one person's asking it, probably a lot of other people are thinking it or wondering it. So let's see if we can address some of these questions. It might help you in your plans there. So Stuart Gilmore 4540 writes, what about the 1975? At the start, because it's a number, or under N for 19? And how do you organise within artists? E.g., does Blonde on Blonde come before Highway 61 because B comes before H? Or is it the other way round, because Highway 61 was released before Blonde on Blonde? So that's a good question. So first of all, in terms of the 1975 or four non-blondes or two-pack or whatever else, I used to do it where I'd have the numbers at the front. So the 1975 and four non-blondes and everything like that would be before the A's. I then changed that to it being the first letter of the spelt out word. So it would in this case be N for 1975, simply because different bands have different ways of organising. So some will use the numeral and some will have the word spelt out. And so if you've got like 30 seconds for Mars, for example, they will spell it out 30. But yeah, then again, like the 1975 will be the numerals. So, because there's that sort of mix and match, I just thought, well, I'm going to have one system for all. I'm going to have it alphabetized as opposed to numerical. So that's what I do there. In terms of then how the albums are listed within, so for the Bob Dylan stuff, do I put Blonde on Blonde before Highway 61 or vice versa? I used to do it chronologically. So in that case, I would have Highway 61 first and then Blonde on Blonde, because that was the chronological order that those albums were released in. But I changed because my memory's not that good. Some people are brilliantly photographic and they're able to sort of remember exactly what order albums were released in from different bands. I struggle with that, and so when I was putting something back on the shelf, I would then have to kind of remember, was Hard Day's Night, when did that come out in the release of sort of Beatles albums? So for me, I do it alphabetically, and that makes some people's toes curl because they like to have it chronological, and I get that, and I would like that, but again, I've just not got that good a memory for when these things happened, and so I have them alphabetical. And that's what it is. But the main thing is, if you can find the section, you can find the stuff within it. Because even if you've got like a very prolific artist, the fact is that there's a finite number of shelf space that you're going to have for that artist. So you can probably find stuff. It's more important for me to have the artists really well organised so that I can find them. So that's what I do with that. So numerals, it's the first letter of the word spelt out. That's what that is. Right, so Jerry Webber, 1768, writes, after years of owning albums and CDs, I've pretty much settled on your system, but I still find some in the wrong place, and I could really use the CD towers like you have. Can you tell me who makes them? These things are kind of a ragtag selection, actually. This one here and this one here, I think came from Amazon. This one here, this is one of those long, thin tower things, which I've actually taken in half and split, so that this one is at an angle, and then I've got this one here, which I bought, I think, on Facebook Marketplace as well. So these are all Facebook Marketplace, those were Amazon. But the reason I'm having it like that is so that the bit that's in the corner, if you've got two things that sort of happen at a right angle, you've either got a sort of wasted space behind them, or one is kind of overlapping the other. So to have this one like this, it's at an angle, it means I can see everything and organise it. So that's what. But if you go to Amazon, there's a ton of them. You go to eBay, there's a ton of them. Facebook Marketplace, there's a ton of them. They're all over the used market. Again, much like the CDs and the CD players, people are getting rid of their CD collection and going to streaming services. They don't need these either, so you can usually pick them up for pennies on the pound. So yeah, plenty out there. So David Perkins 3102 writes, do you file Paul McCartney separately from Wings albums? And what do you do with, for example, the best of Brian Ferry and Roxy Music? Does it get filed with BF or RM? And also, I keep Police and Sting albums together. And similar with George Michael and Wham. I used to do that. So I had, for example, I had my George Michael and Wham stuff together. I had Pink Floyd, and I had David Gilmour and stuff all like together. The Syd Barrett stuff, all that stuff was together. The same with Police and Sting. Same with Brian Ferry and Roxy Music. You can see now I've now changed a bit. So I've got Brian Ferry and Roxy Music. I think this is the album he's referring to. I've got him under Brian Ferry, and then I've got the Roxy Music under R's for Roxy Music. The reason being, as I said in the other video, what I do is I tend to have it under the first person that's listed on there. So this Brian Ferry and Roxy Music collection, it's some Brian Ferry stuff and some Roxy Music stuff. So it could have gone either with the Roxy Music stuff or with the Brian Ferry stuff. Frankly, it wouldn't have mattered a tremendous amount. I would have still been able to find it. I'm throwing Fat Boy Slim on the floor. It wouldn't have, it's like it's going to be in one or two places, but I go for the first billing in that case. But I put it with my Brian Ferry stuff as opposed to with my Roxy Music stuff, simply because Brian Ferry got top billing, and that's the way I do it. Top billing, that's where I list it. So that's how that works. Kevin O'Gracia 1615 writes, but where do you put, say, Encomium, a tribute to Led Zeppelin? Peace on Earth. So Encomium is a compilation album. There's all kinds of different artists on that, and I keep compilations entirely separate to everything else. I don't put compilations with everything else. They live on their own shelves down at the bottom there. So I have separate shelves for compilations and separate shelves for movie soundtracks, which for the most part, they're usually compilations as well. Sometimes it's one artist that does the whole thing. I've got some of those too, but for the sake of ease, I will put all of the movie soundtracks together and then all of the compilations together. So in terms of Encomium, that would be for the compilations. But I do have a Led Zeppelin tribute album by a band called Train, who I mentioned in a video that I put out yesterday, by a band called Train, and that goes under T for Train. Obviously, it's not going to go with my Led Zeppelin stuff. But I had it for a while with the Led Zeppelin stuff, just because it's like, here's my Led Zeppelin stuff, and isn't this an amusing thing? And I had like Robert Plant stuff, and like again, solo albums with that, which I don't do anymore. They've all got their own alphabetical categories. But I did have all that stuff together, and I had Train, who'd done a literally note for note remake of Led Zeppelin 2. I put that with it because it felt like it should be part of the extended Led Zeppelin family, or whatever you want to call it, of material in one block. But now it's under Train. I recently bought another Train album, so they've got their own bit there. I've got a Train section, that's one of them. It's an amusing sort of side note to Led Zeppelin, but it doesn't go with the Led Zeppelin stuff. In the same way that Encomium, I don't actually own that album, but if I did, it would go with compilations, because it's got a whole bunch of like Duran Duran and people like that on it. It would be in its own compilation section, not with Led Zeppelin. So that's it. I mean, these are the way I do it as well. I mean, again, feel free to contradict me in the comments and tell me what you do, because, this is a system I find works for me, but it might not work for you. A few other people also brought up using software and how they use that to help categorise and catalogue their music. I do too, and I'd be interested to hear what you use. I'm currently using Discogs for that. So when I get an album, I scan the barcode in, or if it's an old one, like an old record or something that doesn't have the barcode in, I use the sort of unique code for the album, put that in, I'll log it and add it to my collection, and then you can kind of filter through things. And that's useful when you're out and about and you can't remember precisely what albums you've got out of the thousands you might own. You can then look in your collection and see if you've already got it. So that's quite good. But the one thing I don't like is how it organises the music. If you sort alphabetically on Discogs, it does it in a very it's just alphabetical. So the Beatles is always just the first letter. So the Beatles will be under T, which grinds my gears, because I want the Beatles to be under B. I ignore I ignore A's and the's. I ignore the and it's the Beatles or the Smiths or whatever. So I want to check. I want to perhaps look at other systems that can do that, or if anybody knows how I can be more sophisticated with how I use the search functions on Discogs, I'd be keen to know that. But I think that's a very good point, and a few people have brought that up. That it's a very good idea anyway to have some listing somewhere of what you've got. First of all, it makes it a lot easier to find it. Secondly, it makes it a lot easier to know what you've got when you're out and about and buying more stuff, so you don't end up with so many duplicates. And thirdly, it's a very good idea for insurance. If the worst happens and your house burns down or there's a fire or something like that, it's quite good to be able to have that list that you can then give to the insurance company, so that, you know, God forbid anything terrible happens to your music, at least you know what you've got, so that you can put in a claim and try and get at least most of it back, the ones that are readily available at any rate. So I highly recommend that. But yeah, so it's a never-ending topic, this one, and I'm sure it'll run and run, and it shouldn't be very interesting, should it? It's like, well, you know, or would you put the A's with the A's and the B's with the B's? It should be tedious, but it isn't. It's fascinating, because, like, I think most of us that collect things are pretty fascinated with the organisation and the sort of the collection itself, and it being a living and breathing thing, and curating it, and so you want to figure out what goes where and all that stuff. It's fun. I think it's fun anyway. So anyway, that's it. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe. I'm doing tremendously with the subscribers, so thank you very, very much for that. You've all been very, very supportive. I'm nearly at the 600 mark, so that is tremendous. I'm on the way to the 1,000, and great things happen then, because the channel gets monetized, which means I can start putting more money into the content and doing more interesting things. So carry on subscribing, liking, commenting, all the brilliant things you've been doing. I love it so much. All the community that's been built up so far has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.